All right, what's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Hot Corner Podcast. I'm your host, Brett Roshan, alongside my co-host, as always, Keaton Anamacher.
What's up, guys? We are ready to be back here for the 5th episode, and if you guys are liking what you're hearing, if you're digging it, hit that subscribe button, give us a follow. It would really help us grow this podcast. It would show us, that you're liking what we're putting out there. If you got some feedback, definitely hit us up on social media on the Twitter account, which is the Hot Corner Pod. And what do we got in?
Yeah, we got a super special episode actually. First off, before we go into it, we are welcoming on a very special guest, one of our very good friends, Kevin Laughlin. He's a diehard Cubs fan. I'll let Kevin say his piece in just a moment. But yeah, we're very happy to have him as our first guest ever. Kevin, how's it going, man?
Hey guys, happy to be a part of the pod today. Really excited to start talking baseball with you guys. Been a fan of it since episode 1. I know we're about 4 episodes deep here, so really excited to be your first guest and get things going and get things rolling, man.
Yeah, and
going to the north side, man. I'm a north side guy. Always have been, always will be. Old styles and whatnot at the Wrigley Field ballpark, man. So
Absolutely.
Growing up, I was always a Cub fan. That's kind of how I was raised. Generation. That's how it's always been.
No socks?
No, never.
Never.
Yeah, I despise the South Side. People say it's not a rivalry. I still carry a rivalry with me. Crosstown classics and whatnot. We haven't been as fortunate as we had in the previous years, but yeah, man, just happy to be a part of a great franchise, and hopefully we can turn the tide around here in the NL Central. So we're really excited about it, man.
And hopefully so. We obviously got stuff to touch on with the Cubs later on, but on our end, like I said, welcome to the podcast, man.
Super cool to have you on.
Thank you guys for having me.
It's a long time coming for sure.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
But yeah, Keith, what are we starting with today?
Well, I thought we would do the fair and foul segment, right? We're going to start you guys off with a new segment where we are going to, give you how do we explain this?
Yeah. So basically, I can explain it. Yeah, so basically, fair is technically a yes, foul is a no. We also have it down the line, which is kind of in the middle. Basically, we're ranking all the winter meetings deals on what we think.
Acquisitions.
Acquisition-wise, we're going to give Keaton's going to read off, a player who signed wherever, for how much, for how long, for how much.
Try to give some input on each one. Yeah,
and we'll give a quick, maybe 1 to 2 sentence summary on why we think it's fair or foul.
Yeah, and then we'll, touch on a few ones that we think are a little more impactful, big signings. But just to start off, Kershaw going back to the Dodgers, I don't think anyone is surprised.
Yeah.
Fair or foul?
So I'm going to obviously say fair. It's a 1-year deal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason not to bring him back. You shore up the rotation. They did lose Tyler Anderson, so that is a big, welcome back for Clayton Kershaw, because if they lost him too, I think it's a little bit larger in that end aspect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This one for me is an obvious answer. It's all the way fair. This thing's in center field. He's the kind of guy that he's a Dodger for life, and I think seeing him in Dodger blue it's come to be almost like routine at this point.
He would have retired, I think.
Seeing him in any other seeing him in any other color just wouldn't make any sense. And the Dodgers really can't lose on this one. It's a 1-year deal. He's probably going to sign these for another 2 or 3 years.
Why
to
not?
be honest with you.
Sure. Yeah, if he stays in the league that long.
All right, you got another big horse, Verlander going to the Mets. I mean, this fair or foul on the money, because we already know getting Verlander's fair.
Yeah.
I want to hear fair or foul, $43 million.
Yeah, so I think for sure, it was either you go with him or DeGrom. There's no replacement other than I think that was the only replacement possible for DeGrom. So I think this is fair because that is
for the
absolutely
price.
For the price, right? Okay. I mean, you knew that was what you were gonna have to pay him, realistically.
What was the length of the deal?
It was 2 years for $83 million, I think.
86.
Yeah, is there any options included? Player option, club option, kind of thing?
Not really, no.
Okay.
Maybe at the very end.
Honestly, you can't miss with Verlander at this point. The
You
guy's
can't miss, no.
everyone said, "Oh well, his career is almost over" when he signed with Houston in the first place, and look at what he's done since. The guy's been an absolute workhorse. He's been unbelievable.
him.
He's an old school kind of guy too. That's why I think everyone likes him. And I'm fair on this one for now. I really want to see what he's going to do in Queens, though.
Yeah.
I really want to see what he's going to do.
Well, and I just love him because even at his age, he still increases his velocity as the game goes on. He dominates you as the game goes on. He figures you out still better than anyone.
He's easily one of the smartest pitchers.
He's
And
done
I
that.
feel
He's
like
done that all the way since he was in Detroit.
They might be getting someone better than DeGrom because DeGrom can't stay healthy. And
True.
He's
Very good point.
It's just
Yeah.
Verlander. I love that guy. But yeah,
I think it's all the way fair for all three of us.
Yeah.
I will say I'm a little closer to the line on the price. $43 million.
Worth it.
It's such
Worth
a
it.
lot of money.
It's not a Bobby Bonilla contract.
It's coming from a
We
Twins
can
fan.
relax a little bit. I think it'll be all right.
All
I
right,
do
what
agree
about
with Kevin. It is worth it.
Okay, what about Trey Turner? That's a lot of money too.
I will say this one's definitely on the line for me, and I'll explain why. This one is going to be a little bit more of a brief explanation. One, it's 11 years. I know you have to go the extra years to get the free agent. I get it. But at the same time, he signed till he's 40 years old. And I was reading a report on, it was actually Bleacher Report. They were breaking down who out of the biggest free agents are to decline the quickest. He was the number one name. And here's why.
I could see that.
Here's why, though. Their bat speed, listen. Bat speed, as you get older, obviously slows down a little bit, nothing you control. And then on top of that, the only other thing that controls his game is his speed, which is going to decline as he gets older. When he's 40 years old, 37, 38, 39, you're talking a massively different player.
Maybe. I mean, you're kind of just those types of deals. You're just banking on like the first 3 to 5
Right,
years.
and I do, but that's just my take on it, just because I think they gave him too many
So
years.
you're a little closer to the line than
I am.
fair. That
For
is
sure.
for sure fair.
Kevin, what do you think?
This deal, man, I'm so far on the line and leaning foul, to be completely honest with you. I love Trey Turner as a player. If we're just talking about the player he is today, I'm all the way fair on him. Yeah. But in terms of the structure of the deal, I'm leaning towards foul, just because the longevity of it, as Brett had mentioned. I do think he is going to decline as a player, and I don't see him as a shortstop for his entire career.
I definitely
Yeah,
agree.
we were talking about that earlier.
I do see him as more of a second base kind of guy. Nevertheless, he's going to get you contact. He's not going to be the power bat that he once was
Steal
with Washington.
some bases here and there.
He'll steal some bases for the first 3 or 4 years, but by year 5, you might be paying some dividends on this and really seeing maybe we made a mistake with the longevity of this.
But a lot of people were saying this a few years ago about Harper's deal.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah, but, that is free agency. At the end of the day, you pay for the first 4 or 5 years of the guy, realistically. Sure. But I just think 11 years.
Harper's deal is still relatively young as well, too.
That is true.
We got to wait and see what the Phillies are really going to be about.
That's true.
They're not going to be able to move those contracts, too, if these guys struggle.
Yeah.
So they've completely gone all in. I respect that aspect, but at the same time, if 2 years, 3 years come down the road and these guys aren't the same players they were when they paid for them,
they're really stacking
they're going to be paying
up.
for it.
And also, before we move on, huge hot take. Some people might not be happy with this. I think Trey Turner's completely overrated.
Yeah, that could be a whole other topic as it's.
Wow.
We have talked about this. I do not think.
I don't think so, but that's.
Listen. Okay, we can go into this a little bit.
Well, okay, yeah, go ahead.
He's an average defender. Maybe even 2 below average. He's literally
I think he's
right at the
pretty decent.
Is he below average because he makes the hard plays look easy? Or is he below average because
I'm pretty sure. I'm actually I don't even know statistics. I'm just pretty sure he's an average defender.
Off the top of my head. I think he's pretty good.
But with that said, I do think I don't mean overrated as in like he's like way off of what people think.
Yeah.
I just don't think he's often.
You don't think he lives up to the hype?
No, I do, but I don't
he's
think
worth
he's
just a little less.
Oh, 100%. And I also don't think he's. I think he's widely regarded, depending on who you ask, he's the best shortstop in baseball. I mean, realistically, one of them for sure. He's definitely top 3 no matter who you ask.
Well, he's got the tool. He's got the tool set.
He does that.
We're gonna get into these shortstops here in a minute, man.
Speaking of Philadelphia, they did get Taijuan Walker too, so they're piling up.
Yeah.
Fair or foul on him. Just
Taiwan?
can be quick. if
What
you
was
want.
the deal, by the way?
Taiwan Walker?
Did you put down the deal?
I didn't, but I'm pretty sure it was a 4-year
I
deal.
believe it's no, dude. I think
Here,
it's.
let's
I think
Is it a 3 or a 4?
It's let's see. I thought it was a 4-year deal, but
I think
4
Oh,
years,
you're right.
72 million. So 18 a year.
So I've got this is
Oof.
this is what I've got on it. I've got foul 110% for the price. You're paying 70+ million for a 3 or 4 guy. I think Kevin by the nod is probably thinking the same thing.
Yeah, you're paying a guy from the New York Mets, Flushing Queens. Everyone knows him. This guy was what, a 2 or 3 guy in the rotation over there in with the Mets, right?
Yeah, he's a
How
I
many
think he's a
times?
4.
How many times are you paying $18 million per year for a guy that was a 3 or 4 starter in their rotation? It's a really high price. I'm foul on the deal. I understand where the Phillies are coming from. They want to contend. They want to get to that final step of the World Series. They want to be able to put it under their belt. I respect the hell out of him for it. But
He's
I
solid.
don't think it was worth the deal. I think there's so many more pitchers on the market
And
that
that
they
money-
really could have grabbed and really could have gone all in for, i.e. Carlos Rodon.
Yeah, and an after effect of this, speaking of Carlos Rodon, is going to be, what do you think his deal is going to be? When you're talking about 73 million or 74 million, whatever it
72,
was.
yeah.
Or 72, whatever it was for this guy. If he's in the 70 millions, what is an
Rodon's
elite
just
pitcher
not
like Carlos
even-
Rodon?
Well, okay. I get what you're saying. Taiwan Walker making $18 million. I do think Carlos Rodon is a guy that could be potentially making $24 million a year. And
It'll be more.
It would be more, dude.
I honestly,
I think it could be
I think
30, 35.
would you really pay Rodon for that?
With how this market is right now, is what I'm saying.
I
yeah.
think someone will.
I would say if coming from a Cubs fan, being where we're
and
at
he's
right now,
I think he's a Boris agent.
being where we're at right now, I am staying so far out of this market right now because it's sick. It's making me sick to my stomach.
I know.
The amount of money that some of these guys are making.
Well, that's exactly why I'm touching on it. Taiwan Walker is a guy, and we'll touch on a guy that you got a little bit.
I was just
in a
about to
little
say,
bit.
Tyone
Yeah,
is this almost the same pitcher as Walker.
Yeah.
I think he's a better pitcher personally, and he got less. He got somewhere in the high 60s.
Something like that, yeah. High
Yeah,
60s.
so we'll touch on that in a moment. But I think Taiwan Walker in this move is definitely foul for the Phillies. I
agree.
understand again
I agree.
what they're doing,
I
as you
think
mentioned.
it's fair. I like.
You
Taiwan
like the
Walker.
deal.
What's your,
I think winning teams need to have a good pitcher like that in their rotation.
very
They
interesting.
lost Kyle Gibson. They replaced him with Taiwan.
No, look, as me and
Taiwan.
Kevin mentioned, I like it for the aspect of who he is.
You're
and his
saying it's
talent,
not
but
enough when you're trying to compete even further.
I just think there's better pitchers that were out there for a lower price. I'll say, for a lower price, they could have gotten somebody better.
Definitely an inflated market.
Yeah, but
So then for a guy who's very similar on the Cubs, fair or foul on Jameson Tyone?
in the length of the deal,
Because he's very similar to Taiwan.
the
Taiwan
the
Walker.
length of the deal on that one was, I can't remember the length.
4 years.
4 years.
Yeah. Very similar. I think it was 17 a year.
And
So 68 mil.
I'll say this. I'm on the line on this. There's 2 reasons. I'm fair on this for the price. I don't mind the price of it at all. I think it's a fair price for a guy like Jameson Tyone, who performed well in a very hitter-friendly ballpark.
And he's still got a first round, second round prospect status.
Sure,
You're
yeah.
always going to get
Jameson
that
Tyone.
extra chip on your shoulder.
I've been a
because of
fan.
your
I've been a
draft.
fan of Jameson Tyone. He really performed well with the Yankees last year. I was really happy to see what he would to hit. I was happy to see him come to the North Side. I'll say that.
He's
I
a good
don't-
pitch mix, too.
Don't care for the longevity of it, though. I would have liked to see a 2 or 3 year deal. The reason being is because if, for some reason, some of these prospects don't pan out for the Cubs and they aren't where they want to be in the rebuild process at that moment, you can say, yeah, Jameson, here's year 3 of your contract. We're still not contending. Let's dump you and let's get you something at the deadline for this team to build on.
Perfect.
And I completely agree.
They should be doing that.
My take on the whole deal is I think 100% outside of the 4th year, I think it's fair. For sure. I've always been a big Jameson Tyone guy. I think what he brings to the Cubs, and I obviously, as we talk about a little bit later going on, the other guy they got, they're thinking the same thing, where, listen, it's a rebuilding ball club. You have to go the fourth year to get the guy. You got to. You got to go the extra year to get the free agent. That's really what's happening here. And in reality, I'm sure, again, they would have rather had him for a 2-3 year deal, like Kevin said.
That's in a perfect world.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
But again, the reality of it is you got to go the extra year to get the guy. And then on top of that, Jameson Taillon has to have one good year. And then if you're talking about 3 years of control, if we're talking about trade value, or even 2 years of control, say you keep him for another year after that, you're completely going in a great direction in terms of trading for prospect value for a rebuilding team, in my opinion. And Jameson Taillon is a huge ceiling, in my opinion.
These are the types of deals that we are going to see from the Cubs in the next 2 to 3 years. Just like Kevin said, they're going to take chances on Taillon. We might see a trade for Stroman, very similar deal, only they did it last year.
Oh, I think they will.
So it's a very good setup for year 2.
Stroman's made it clear he wants to play in San Fran. I'm fine with if they're contending.
Yeah, we'll touch a little bit more on the Cubs later.
Yeah, well, actually, sticking with the Cubs for the next fair or foul.
Uh-oh.
Cody Bellinger.
Here we go.
Personally, I'm a foul just for the price, but I'm a fair for the same idea as Taillon, where if the value's good enough at the deadline, you get to trade it for something.
What do you think?
Man, I'm fair on this one, man. I'm dead center at the 400 mark in center field at Wrigley Field, man. I love this deal. Cody Bellinger's a guy that, every single Cubs fan hated him when he was with the Dodgers. That's typical. Everyone hates the Dodgers. I think that's pretty much everyone in all of baseball, unless you're a Dodgers fan. But Cody Bellinger's a guy, you're paying him 17 some odd a year for 1 year. Give the guy a shot. He needs a change of scenery. He wants to perform better. This is his last big mega deal in terms of money-wise for him to perform. He doesn't perform, all you have to do is DFA him. No problem. They did the same thing with Hayward. They did it a little soon, but they had to because the numbers weren't there.
At this point, you have nothing to lose.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
The name Bellinger brings in some money and all that.
Yeah, absolutely. It puts butts in the seat.
It is in no way, shape, or form a bad signing.
Yeah.
I just think
you're seeing 35 out there in center field or right field or first base with pinstripes.
Your take was foul, right?
I personally am foul for the price.
Okay, I am gonna have to again side with Kevin. I am completely fair on this for the reason that I don't think there's anything to lose. Right. I do think that in the aspect of there is a reality. We talked about this with our Jays segment before he was signed. That there is obviously a reality where Cody Bellinger goes back and he hits low 200s and has a crap year again. But at the same time, when you're the Cubs, you got to look at it as what do you got to lose?
Well, we tried.
Well.
Right.
When you're the Cubs right now.
Well, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
He's got to have his shield up. He's got to have his defense up.
In the current state of the Chicago Cubs, which is obviously, as everyone knows, rebuilding, you have to. It's literally you can fire darts at the dartboard. If they don't hit, they don't hit. Yeah. And at the same time, if they do, there comes a good prospect back in the deadline. A good piece.
It's the same thing that they did last year. They're doing experiments. David Robertson worked out beautifully last year, and it provided a good trade piece.
And I will provide, and I completely agree, and I also will provide a little counter argument for your money aspect of it. Cubs, again, rebuilding team, got nothing to spend the money on. I mean, obviously spent it on Taillon, but at the same time, they've got nothing. They got nothing to blow it on, and at the same time, it's even less than a qualifying offer, which I know qualifying offers are getting up there, but. Yeah. I think you're maybe in a Minnesota Twins mindset. Just a little bit of the money aspect.
His OPS plus though was 74.
Just to finalize,
or something like that for the last 2 seasons.
It's an experiment.
Just to finalize things.
Other than that, it is a nothing to lose scenario.
This guy, you got nothing to lose, man. You're talking about a guy that was an MVP at one point. and you're paying him 17 a year.
Could still be in him, yeah.
Who cares, man? If you're paying him 17 a year, you were paying Hayward $3 or $4 million extra than what you're paying Bellinger now.
They know
it doesn't matter. It doesn't.
They know what a bad contract.
At this point, it doesn't matter. You're talking to a guy that's a Cubs fan that's seen his fair share of really bad contracts. Milton Bradley comes to mind. Alfonso Soriano. The list goes on, man. So this is a 1-year deal. You're not locked into him.
I agree.
All right. Well, there's some merit. If you're gonna pivot over to the same division, though, different team. We got the Cardinals. They took your your catcher, dude.
Here we go.
Wilson Contreras to the Cardinals. This has got to be fair all the way for the Cardinals.
100%.
100%. If you're getting a guy, in an inflated market that is under, I know the pitching market's a little bit more expensive right now. Although we did just moments ago see Nimmo sign for $160 million. We'll touch on that a little bit later. But if you're getting a guy like Wilson Contreras, star catcher, 5 years for less. I guess 5 years isn't that much, but it's for less than $100 million, which I thought he
was it 13 a year, right?
Yeah, he's getting $88 million in total, and I think to that regard, it's undoubtedly fair. I think it's going to be all across the board fair.
And they're replacing a Hall of Fame catcher with maybe not Hall of Fame yet, but like
potential Hall of Fame,
top 5 catcher in the game.
This is, it's one of those situations where the trade deadline last year, all the Wilson Contreras rumors, and then nothing happened. It's like, okay, maybe we might re-sign him in the offseason. And then the knife goes into your gut, and then you see the price that they got him for, and they twist it more and more. And that's what St. Louis does. They twist the knife more and more. They did it with the Rockies fans, but they got Nolan Arenado. They did it with the Diamondbacks fans when they got Goldschmidt.
That would be like the Twins doing that to me every year.
Yeah, and it's repetitive. And now you're talking about a guy who's a perennial all-star, who's $13 million a year for him to bat .255 and clear 30 home runs and just destroy the NL Central. Not to mention a guy who knows how to control pitchers, who keeps them calm, who knows what they're doing, who knows their aspects, who knows their antics, and a guy who's also not afraid to fire the ball down to first base. You don't see that a lot in catchers, man. He's an electric player, and he's another one of those guys that number 40 in pinstripes put butts in seats, man. That he did, and that's the reality. That's
probably why they kept him.
No, they should
for the most part.
Oh, for sure. And that's a whole other topic about ownership wanting to keep him because of ticket sales and whatnot, and we don't have to touch on that, but I think honestly Contreras is. I love the guy, and I always will, even though he's wearing that awful red with the terrible pewter blues that they wear on Saturdays.
But Cubs cards aside, this is fair for you.
Yeah.
I think you did already say that.
Mm-hmm. Again, this deal's in center field.
This is a home run.
This deal's it's out of the park. Cardinals really, manipulated the market so well.
Undoubtedly.
Should we do Nimmo now?
Well, we got Nimmo added now.
Nimmo just went to the Mets.
Back.
I know. Let's start with Brett here because you were really high on him.
Yeah, and for those of you who have listened to our previous episodes, you would know that he was a huge Blue Jays target, as well as was Cody Bellinger.
Sure.
But, it's just a left-handed bat aspect of it, and I personally do think he replaced Teoscar Hernandez the best out of the free agent market, at least. To that regard, I think it's fair for the player he is and who he is, but I am going to lean to down the line for the reason of how long it was and for how much it was.
What was the longevity of it?
8 years, $164 million. This is a guy that has played, I think, 1 or 2 full seasons. He's super injury prone. For the type of player you're getting when he's healthy, 100% worth it. For the type of injuries and number of time he's going to be out, a number of years or I shouldn't say years or months.
Sure.
I don't think it's worth it for the longevity, so I'm going to go down the line.
That's fair. I would also say down the line as well, based on what Brett said. The injury proneness really affects you, as well as just, you got to remember where the Mets outfield was, right? You had Conforto, you had Nimmo, and then you had a fill-in, which was either Dom Smith or Lucas Duda.
Well, then they got Marte.
Yeah, and then you add Marte into the mix, and then it's kind of like, wow, we have kind of a crowded outfield now. I'm down the line on it just because of the fact that it might be a crowded outfield, man.
Yeah.
You're talking about a couple guys, and I know that the flying squirrel can play pretty much anywhere. He's your second baseman, but if need be, I'm sure he could fill in for Nimmo. So that for that reason, I'd be fair. But for the length of it, you're talking about an 8-year deal, man. This is a big deal. It's a big commitment, man.
Sticking with outfield, another semi-big deal was with San Fran with Haniger. I think this is pretty solid. I mean, Haniger to the Giants, there's really nothing to be, frowned upon.
Yeah, and
deal is,
and I think this is fair for the reason that it's 3 years, right? They didn't pay much, but how much did they pay him in specific? I think it was maybe in 30.
43, I think.
Something like that. I think this is completely warranted, and I think at this point, a lot of people don't understand this. I think at this point, they knew there was a reality that they weren't getting Aaron Judge. Obviously, Mitch Haniger isn't Aaron Judge or anything remotely close to it.
But they need
He's a
someone.
safety net. He's a safety net. Yeah.
He is, and I think they were super smart. I mean, if they ended up without Aaron Judge and without him and without anybody off the market, I think they'd be really angry. So, and I think their fans would be angry. So, I think it's 100% fair for everything warranted.
I'll say fair for the Giants. Yeah, absolutely. I say foul for the Mariners. I think the Mariners should absolutely pick this guy up. He's your lifeblood of the team, man. He's a guy who's a great clubhouse guy. He's very smart of the game. He knows what he's doing. Fair for the Giants. I love this deal. I really, really do. 3 years is not that long of a commitment, and he's also a guy that people are going to know and they're going to grow to love.
Yeah. Before we go any further, I do think I will provide something for the Mariners. Why they wouldn't want him back? I think. I mean, they obviously got Teoscar from us.
That was the big reason.
And that is the big reason, right? But again, they did trade Winker away to the Brewers. They did. Yeah, they don't really have.
Yeah, they got Renfroe though.
Who's going to be playing? No, he's on the Angels.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, my mistake.
Who are they going to be playing in left field? Because they gave away Lewis too. They gave away Lewis this year, and they gave away Winker.
Might be time to try out Trammell.
I love.
They might.
It might be time to try out Trammell.
Or they're doing
Kellenic
the first.
Yeah, play all three. Yeah.
Right.
Either way, I mean, one of those two guys, if they don't pan out, they got the other one.
I mean, when you're talking about just completely off topic, but when you're talking about a Mariners outfield last year, with Haniger there, even though he was injured.
Oh, he solidified the whole group.
Haniger, Lewis, Kellenic, and Winker basically as platoon guys. Mm-hmm. That's insanity.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Obviously, Julio Rodriguez takes.
You got J-Rod too.
Right.
I mean that's.
Imagine if they still had Kyle Lewis in that form.
Right. I think it was smart to move Kyle Lewis. You don't need him.
Yeah, you don't need
him. For sure.
Sticking with the outfield, we got two more. Sticking with the AL East too. We're moving to the AL East. We got Masataka Yoshida. So this is someone we don't really know anything about. Right?
Same thing with Seiya Suzuki last year, man.
Yeah, I've honestly see them as comparable. Same type of deal, same numbers. It looked like the same numbers in their other league. So this is kind of we're gonna have to wait and see.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna say
down the line.
I'm gonna say a foul for the reason that it has nothing to do with the Red Sox. I'm just gonna say for the reason that it is $100 million. I think that is a lot of money to pay a guy who's never stepped a foot into Major League batter's box.
Even minor league.
Well,
that's considered professional. Minor leagues, if they don't even have any minor league experience, it is a gamble. Seiya Suzuki is still a gamble.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's a gamble they were willing to take, especially for the length of it. What was it, a 3-4 year deal?
4 or 5.
And I've always been so skeptical about these Japanese markets. Not for the reason that they're not talented players. They're absolutely talented.
There's just a level that they bring.
There's a different level at the MLB level, man. I mean, it's
a game.
Right.
It's insane, and the money is the money. That's what the market's at. And I know probably the Red Sox were competing with a lot of other teams to go get this guy.
Mm-hmm.
Fine by me that he went to the Red Sox. I'm fair on it just because why not? Why not give the kid a shot? Why not? He's 29 years old.
If they're good enough to get posted from their other league, it means they're good enough to be in the pros.
I got to imagine the same Japanese translator has got to be remaining in the Red Sox organization.
Probably.
Koji Uehara, he worked out pretty well.
He was good, yeah.
He was real good.
They've been picking up those good international guys since Daisuke Matsuzaka.
Yeah, that Daisuke, man.
But yeah, sticking with the Red Sox, they went and got Kenley Jansen. Thought that was pretty decent.
Yeah, they got him for what, 2 years?
2 years, 32 mil.
Yeah, that's 100%.
I did see that. And go ahead, Brett. I'm sorry.
No, you're
it's
good.
Pretty fair.
I think it's fair for sure. I mean, it solidifies their bullpen to me.
I'm indifferent on it. I mean, I'd say it's a fair deal. I'm fair on it.
I will say, and I'm sure this is kind of what Kevin's touching on, I don't think he's the same guy that he was once.
Probably
but
not.
At the same time, I mean, for a Red Sox bullpen that's, seemingly now we didn't know this.
Still demands 32 mils.
Yeah, now we didn't see this at the time because they were really big on Bogarts, but
Kenley
it really does matter. They are different.
Kenley was good with the Braves, man, and I give the guy a lot of credit, but
And he was
it
in a
just seems
bullpen
like
full of
Boston.
arms.
It just seems like Boston's always had that lockdown guy. You know what I mean? They've always had that guy that comes in the ninth.
Papelbon.
Other than
Papelbon, Kimbrel, Uehara,
Familia,
whoever it might be, man. They've always had that guy. And
They find a way to
it's
get
been
that
a mainstay in their organization, so
I will say
I give them credit for getting Kenley, man.
Yeah, I will say they did actually take a break from that last year. They had a lot of closer issues, and Whitlock was pretty good for them, but they had Barnes as they're going into, Matt Barnes did not turn out, at least last year.
Yeah.
And that was a big surprise, but
setup role. Maybe he's a setup role guy, and he's not comfortable in the ninth.
Right, I agree.
Another thing that's going to let a lot of Boston Red Sox fans down is Xander Bogaerts' massive $280 million. I mean, most people, he's going to the Padres. Most people thought he was getting like 180.
Yeah.
Boris got him 280.
Brett, you want to touch on this one?
Yeah. I think this goes with what we were talking about earlier. $300 million to Trey Turner set the market for shortstops.
I'm following this.
Let's be honest. $280 million. I mean, I think he's not Trey Turner. I think Trey Turner's better, obviously.
I do too.
But at the same time, $300 million set the market for me. That's what I think. I think it's down the line for how much it is. I really.
They might think Machado's going to opt out in a year or two.
That's also another thing. But think about it.
Slide him over to
Let's
third.
forget about that for a moment and think about this year, dude. Think about Tatis comes back. Okay, you've got him, and they still are to be determined where they're playing him. I don't know if they're playing him at second or left field, wherever they're thinking.
Yeah.
They're thinking about putting him in the outfield, but they have a great problem. Their infield now is Machado, Bogarts, Cronenworth, maybe Tatis if he's there. Kim
who's elite defender.
defensively. For this year,
4.9 WAR for Kim.
Yeah.
Just for people listening, Kim had
Sure.
a 4.9 WAR. And no one talks
and
about it.
another thing that a lot of people aren't thinking about is this pushes the gas pedal on the Dodgers. And the Dodgers, they've only lost this year, other than getting Kershaw back. They've only lost. They lost Tyler Anderson. You could say Bellinger, I guess, is a loss.
They lost
They lost Heaney.
For my sake, just say please.
but they haven't gained anything. I don't even think they've signed anybody. So at the same time, it's like this is San
They're
Diego's
probably going
time.
to retain Justin Turner.
And before you go in, because I know Kevin's got a lot to say about this. Before Kevin goes, I know San Diego's been there, done that, and that's a lot of people's perspective. They always spend, people can't forget Matt Kemp, Justin Upton, all those guys, and I won't forget it either. But it's just there's an environment with San Diego right now that they were good last year, and I feel like they're kind of turning up the heat on the Dodgers. So I think it's fair.
I got to be honest, man. I am the counterpart of Brett. I am so far foul on this. I'm in the hot dog stands on the concourse, man.
Interesting.
I mean, Xander Bogaerts, good player, 31 years old. This guy, 11-year deal.
9 years.
9-year deal?
Yeah.
Oh.
I think 9 for 280.
Nevertheless, you're talking about a 9-year deal for a guy who's, 30, 31?
It's ridiculous.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money, and you've already committed so much money to your organization as a whole. To touch on what Brett said, Justin Upton, Matt Kemp, Eric Hosmer, Will Myers.
You were right, actually. 11 years. Sorry.
It is 11.
11,
Yeah.
280.
wow.
But the
list-
280 itself is too much, in my opinion.
The list goes on about these bad signings that San Diego's had, and they haven't changed course. They're still the same team. Yeah, Xander Bogaerts might be able to give you. I project maybe Xander Bogaerts only gives you 2 or 3 years, and then what? then you're screwed. I mean, you're talking about a guy who's year 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Yeah.
You got to pay him that much for all those years. Maybe it's a front loaded deal. I would hope to God it's a front loaded deal, but you're talking
Most of
about
them are.
Might be
a crowded infield already, and you've only made it more crowded.
That's
Xander
why
Bogaerts.
that's why I think they think Machado might opt out soon, like
That's
next
fine.
year.
I mean, if
and they have a backup right there to slide over.
That's fine with me, but if Machado opts out, that's on him. You're talking about Kim, right? You touched on Kim. Kim's defensive glove work is really, really good. Cronenworth is also a guy that I'd love to see in any other lineup. I mean, he's a lefty bat with power, with contact, with really good numbers, who also plays the field well. Typically a right side of the infield kind of guy. He's perfect for a lot of places. Maybe they think about moving Cronenworth if Bogaerts works out. If Bogaerts doesn't work out, they're going to be paying for this for a long time. And they're going to be talking about San Diego Padres. Fernando Tatis could possibly turn into an Adrian Gonzalez for the San Diego Padres. Where it's just the one guy on that team.
I will say one thing, though. Cronenworth has his spot saved just for the reason that they're going to put him at first. That is the reports, or at least what the reports are suggesting.
So where are they going to move Hosmer?
He's gone,
Hosmer's
remember?
gone.
He did
a
get
Red Sox.
traded.
He's a Red Sox.
My apologies.
So
and then they still have Myers too, right?
Myers is
He's
actually,
a free
Myers is
agent
free
now.
agent, and
He is
also
okay,
and
so
also
they got
They
him off the
declined
books.
his option.
So they got Hosmer and Myers off the books, so they felt like they could spend a little extra. They overpaid.
Yeah.
They overpaid for Bogaerts.
Yeah, but again,
They could have given him 220 or 200.
I agree.
And that's even a high price.
But Boris is getting these deals.
I was going to
dude.
say, you got to understand the inflated market. And, I think, again, Turner going first really set him up. I don't think he gets paid that much if Turner doesn't go first.
Yeah.
I really don't. Because $300 million for 11 years to Turner, Bogart said, hey, I might be a little bit of a lot less in terms of caliber player, but not far off. Let me get the same amount of length, but let me get, $20 million less.
Yeah.
And that's probably how they got it done.
Yeah.
I mean, something like that. And I like the move for the first couple of years. Obviously, the longevity. Nobody likes to give a guy who's 31.
they're gonna be paying for that. I promise.
Guys, Alabama.
Well, speaking of the Padres, they lost Josh Bell. He's going to the Guardians. I mean, I think this is a pretty good pickup for them, but you could have an opinion, fair, foul.
Oh, me? I'm fair on this. Cleveland always does a great job. They always pick up 1 to 2 guys.
Yeah.
It's always 1 to 2 guys in the free agent market.
That you don't.
This is their guy. This is their guy. I promise you that. I think Josh Bell is the kind of guy that Cleveland really, really needs in this spot. They've always had good hitting first basemen. Prior to the show, we were talking about Cleveland first basemen in their time. Jim Thome, Travis Hafner. There's guys that have been in that
filtered
spot.
in and out.
And they've always
now they've
Naylor. Always hit. And Naylor's a guy that you could potentially see as a DH or if they need to, an outfielder.
Stick him in left.
But I really, really, really love this move for Cleveland's sake. I think Cleveland is in an AL Central division that's really tough to call. I mean, I know last year I remember talking to you guys about who could be contenders in this division, and Detroit was seriously brought up. Kansas City not as much because they're in a rebuild, much like the other teams. But, you got Kansas City that's at the bottom. You got Detroit.
Detroit's at the bottom.
You got Detroit mixed in there maybe this year. It could be this year. You don't know. White Sox are in there. Twins are one of those teams that competes and competes and competes. They play hard. And then the Guardians. And the Guardians are one of those teams that
you always count out.
You always count out at the beginning of the year, and then you realize, wow, this team actually has it together. They have the it factor.
And I think Josh Bell is a good addition.
I think Josh Bell is the perfect addition.
So, for the biggest, we'll jump to the biggest now of the biggest acquisition. AL East, Aaron Judge back to the Bombers.
Yeah, welcome back, Mr. Blue Jays killer. This is an instant.
Well,
fair.
Mr. All-League killer.
Yeah, that's
really.
true. Yeah, for real. This is.
It just sucks for you that he's back.
Yeah, but it's an instant fair.
Yeah.
It is an instant fair. You knew. The only thing, again, and this is what we've been talking about with all these deals, is the longevity.
Yeah,
9 years.
sure.
What are they paying him? Paying him till he's 40 probably again.
40, yeah.
Yeah, just about, which I get it. But I think Judge maybe has a little bit more of a, I could turn into a DH type guy as he gets older.
Sure.
And I don't think it faults the Yankees at all, especially in that ballpark. I think it's just 100% fair.
Oh, I agree with you. I think Aaron Judge he's a fair. I mean, he's Aaron Judge, and maybe I say that because I'm biased. He's got the intangibles. He's 6'7", 260. He's got to hit some massive power.
Oh yeah, dude.
Massive power. Knows how to go to all fields too, and I think that's why I'm fair on it too.
Yeah,
he's not just your Adam Dunn that bats 210 or 200 even and gives you 40 bombs, and
he's literally a baseball god.
Yeah, he's something that's sculpted.
I was about to say he's chiseled from the baseball.
You know what
god.
he is?
They've literally made him look like a superhero.
Aaron Judge is when you create a player in a video game and you make him 6'7" and you max out his sliders, all the way up for hitting, and as well as fielding, and then you kind of just leave it there. He's a true. You know what he is? He's a true 99 overall.
Yeah, and
the number says the number on his back says what he is.
Yeah, and the thing that gets me the most about Aaron Judge, as you mentioned, fielding. It's with some of these guys who hit that well, there seems to have to be at least. I mean, Mike Trout aside, has to be guys that have some sort of weakness on the field, regardless if that's on the defensive end or the hitting end. I do not see anything.
There's no holes in this game.
I really don't.
There's no holes in this game.
He's even above average speed, which is insane, which you would think he wouldn't be.
And he battles at the plate. There's no pitch that you can always go to. He's like the real deal.
I mean, there's no guy that we've ever seen like him other than number 27 for the LA Angels. He
just has more speed.
No, yeah, I mean
post-steroid era for sure.
Well, yeah, I mean you could talk about McGuire and Canseco all day, but do those numbers?
I just hope that Judge doesn't pan out to be Stanton.
No, I think that's the biggest fear for the Yankees fans, but
at honestly, this point, there's no fear. Right
what do you have to lose? He's a guy. You needed him back.
They're gonna buy another one if they want to too.
Yeah, they'll invest.
Well, last but not least, for the crazy, hectic winter meetings, I think this is a good one to end on because you wanted him. Heaney.
Oh, yeah.
Heaney to the Rangers.
That's an interesting one. So, there's actually, and we talked about this, there's actually reports that came out from John Hammond that the Blue Jays actually bidded higher than the Rangers, which is pretty interesting. Canadian taxes obviously have something to do with it. But that aside, I think...
And the weather.
Right. Yeah, and do I want to go to freaking be on the beach in Texas?
Do I want to spend my winters in Toronto?
Right, exactly. But on the aspect of it, this is definitely, I know from a guy who I wanted. You could talk about his years in the past. You could talk about his injury history. But I think this is 100% fair, and there's a reason for it. There's several statistics that have been dug into on Andrew Heaney, where the Dodgers last year actually made him use his slider, which he never used before.
His slider pitch mix in general.
But his slider they found out was elite. His fastball they found out was above average, which they didn't know before. He wasn't mixing his pitch as well in LA on the other side of the Angels.
Sure.
And I get the injury stuff, but I think the Rangers, especially with where they're at, I think they got a great guy, especially to put in the 3 or 4 holes.
This is fair for me. It's a plus guy to have in your rotation, man. I mean, they're gonna follow him up after DeGrom on, when they start from 1, 2, 3, and I really love this move. I think Andrew Heaney to the Rangers makes a lot of sense, especially considering how much the Rangers spent last season, all for nothing, pretty much. I mean,
and now you look at that rotation. It's John Gray, Martin.
Would be DeGrom.
Oh yeah, DeGrom. Then
it's DeGrom, Martin Perez, Gray or Heaney, depending on
probably Heaney.
Probably Heaney, then Gray, and then it's
Dane Dunning.
Dane Dunning
yeah.
I mean, I think the Rangers have set themselves up to be in a position where they contend for a wild card. Yeah. I don't think they're all the way there yet, which is kind of I really would love to see the Rangers because, I mean, for those of you that don't know, I'm a big Cubs fan, diehard Cubs fan, but Rangers are my AL team. They always
You
have
always
been.
like them, yeah.
Nelson Cruz, Josh Hamilton, that
Beltre,
that team back in the day.
Michael Young.
And then the catch that was missed at the wall from Nelson Cruz against the Cardinals always haunts me. But yeah, I really like I like the direction the Rangers are heading. I just think that they need to get over that hump, and it's always been pitching that's been their issue.
Yeah, I'd have to agree, but I think Heaney added at the winter meetings. I know we're touching on that just the winter meetings right now, but Heaney and then on top of DeGrom, which signed just before the winter meetings.
Sure.
I mean, that is just about as big of a splash you can get. And then we were talking about this before we recorded. I don't think this is going to happen because they're putting all their money on the books, and obviously it's Texas, they're rich. Rodon is a rumor, but I don't. And if that even were to come close to happen, that makes the Heaney deal.
I mean,
so
that solidifies your rotation. Beyond belief.
But that's obviously
Beyond
to be determined, and I don't think they're gonna go there. I don't think.
I love John Gray in that ballpark. I'll say that.
I do too.
I love.
I think John Gray's very underrated.
Yeah.
I think he was overrated for a time in Colorado.
I wouldn't say underrated. I'd say underappreciated.
Sure. That's a good term.
Better way to put it.
So that's all the moves for the winter meetings. That was that was a lot.
In recent memory, it's one of the most eventful winter meetings we've seen.
Well,
before it was always winter meetings, trade talk. Will this happen? Could this happen?
Yeah.
You know, just sitting down watching the MLB Network. Whenever 3 o'clock in the afternoon, intentional talk would come on, and it'd always be Kevin Millar spewing nonsense,
talking about,
and it would never happen. It would never happen.
Yeah, and we discussed this on our last episode. The winter meetings in specific. We didn't have winter meetings for last year because of the lockout.
Sure.
The year before because of COVID.
Sure.
So I think this year they kind of took it as in, and everybody complains about the baseball offseason being slow. Everybody, I don't think there's a deadline per se. Obviously,
I blame that specifically on Bryce Harper.
right, yeah, waiting till March or February, wherever.
So much so that the MLB The Show cover was not him in his uniform. At first.
yeah, right.
Not sure if you guys remember that.
I do
remember that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think as much as we complain about the MLB offseason being too slow, there's nothing to complain about this year. There is absolutely everything you could have wanted out of that winter meetings.
Sure, yeah, and I think there's still some good names on the market too, man. I mean,
absolutely.
I think Dansby hasn't signed yet, right?
Dansby has not.
Dansby and
Correa.
That moves
Correa,
that moves us to our next thing, kinda, because now we've kind of covered all the names that have been off the board. We've discussed, the pros and cons, but to move it to a more specific level. Now that meetings have taken place, there might have been rumors that have sizzled down. Maybe some have picked back up.
Sure.
Like, I'm gonna go over the Blue Jays first. What do you want to see moving forward? Like,
moves.
Not like a overall strategy. Just like what needs to happen next.
Yeah. So
with all those names off the board too. I mean, that's a lot of names.
Because the Twins are in the same position. Our teams have not made any moves.
Sure.
And we're waiting. I feel like our teams are in a domino situation.
Yeah, it's interesting.
We need one domino to hit the next one.
It's interesting to hear your guys' perspective, considering that my team is
you started to
completely in an opposite direction than you guys right now.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, go. Tell us what do you think needs to happen next?
So to bring it to that perspective, it's a little bit of a hierarchy. My team which are the Jays, have different needs than the Twins or the Cubs.
Sure.
More of the Cubs in specific. Twins, just because we're contending, obviously, for as much as we want.
Yeah.
This winter meetings, to me, obviously no one knows what goes behind the scenes. We don't know how much groundwork was laid. Was a total fail for the reason that obviously no moves were made.
Sure.
With that said, the Nimmo signing
they definitely
tonight,
gained some ground, hopefully.
Right. With the Nimmo signing tonight, which isn't about the winter meetings, because that's what we're touching on, is a stinger, even though I don't agree with the terms that he signed for.
Yeah.
But to continue what I'm saying, we have to go in a route now of where we need to figure out, again, we talk about it all the time on the show, what we're going to do with our catchers, our 3 elite catchers,
tradable catchers.
Tradable, Jansen, Kirk, Moreno, whatever you want to slice it. We got it now, again, exactly as you mentioned, that was perfect, the domino effect. We need to figure out what are we trading these guys for, our specific needs, our 2 starting pitchers, and then more than anything, our priority needs to be a left-handed bat. I prefer 2 left-handed bats, but at this point, beggars can't be choosers.
I mean, hey, if it was up to me, man, I'd give you half for Moreno in a heartbeat.
wow.
I would do it. I would do it.
I don't think we would move for
I
a
would
1-year
do
guy.
half for Orelvis, but Moreno's same thing.
We need a catcher. I mean,
Yeah, because the Cubs and with
We
both
need
of
a
you here, the
catcher.
Cubs
Sorry
and
to-
Twins.
sorry to
yeah.
cut
Twins
you
need
off,
a catcher too.
No, you're good.
that's what we need right now.
Well, listen, I would love to have Ian Happ on the squad. I do. We did talk about this right before recording. I don't think he's maybe going to have the same year, but, he's exactly what he fits like a glove in the Jays.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's a left-handed bat, switch hitter.
Switch
hitter.
he's a switch bat.
But
Maybe more dominant from the left side, but
Right.
still
But he
gives you
gets
that
on
option.
base. He gets
And,
on base from both sides.
But the only reason that Happ is not my primary option, and I've been saying this for a while, is we need a center fielder. George Springer is not. It's not. I should say want. We want a center fielder. George Springer again he's not in need. It's not a need for him to move out of center field, but he is so injury prone now to the point of where he needs to be a corner outfielder. He's always, in our opinion, me and Keaton looked like a right fielder. Anyways, looked like a corner outfielder.
I agree with you.
I've always
So it's
said
like
that.
Well, how long is his injury recovery time?
Well, he's back.
He'll be
He is-
back.
he's-
Yeah, he'll be
okay.
back.
But
He's had a
because
concussion.
of
Yeah,
just
yeah.
because of who he is,
That injury looked pretty nasty.
It
in the
was.
playoffs.
stick
he's
him
back
in right.
now, though, yeah.
Stick him in right.
He's fine right now. He's already training and stuff.
Okay, good.
But with that said, I can't be taking that risk anymore. It's not, obviously the window is as open as it's ever gonna be. It's not closing anytime soon, but at the same time, it's now. We need to make that.
It has
move.
to be now.
It has to be now. We cannot wait. Vlad and Bo have to get their extensions, so I do like it from a money perspective. Maybe that we
for
make
sure.
a big move,
Yeah.
but I think this is now where we pivot and we start thinking about really getting creative. I think we start thinking about Rodon maybe as a possible option. Again, we
Sure.
need 2 starting pitchers. I don't think we're looking maybe more in the 4 or 5 market, but if we make a splash for a
Yeah.
Rodon or something like that, I think it would be
Now,
huge.
I gotta ask you. I mean, with all this speculation going on, I know you had mentioned to me prior to the podcast airing that you weren't in the realm for an experimental guy.
Mm-hmm.
With your options very limited right now, don't you think the Jays should be included on any kind of rental guys?
I will
Just
say,
for maybe some fillers?
sure.
You know what I
will,
mean?
Sure, I will say at the end of the day, and thank you for saying that, because at the end of the day, obviously the reason we need those left-handed bats is because we don't have any left-handed bats other than Kevin
Sure,
Biggio,
yeah.
but more specifically because we need to fill the role of Teoscar Hernandez, who we traded.
Right.
This isn't a team that that can trade him away and then act like, okay, we can kind of put fillers in. This is a team we need to be better than we were at Teoscar Hernandez.
Yeah.
Which you can do with the Rodon market, you can do with the pitching market, and you could, trade for maybe a little bit less of a bat.
Yeah.
But with that said, going on your topic, I am willing to go with a rental experiment piece, but he cannot be the main guy. If I'm getting a Gallo,
No.
If I'm getting a Gallo, or for example, if I were to get a Bellinger,
Dom
Smith, they cannot be the same. They cannot be the only one guy. He has to have someone else there who's more proven. If we get a Gallo and a Benintendi, perfect. We get a Gallo and a Happ, fine. I need a proven guy, and obviously specifically left-handed bat.
Sure.
On top of
Absolutely.
that. But
Absolutely.
I'm open to one of those guys being that. Yes.
Well,
I think that'll happen. pretty
Could you
soon.
say that you could wait? Do you think with this team right now, where it stands right now, do you think you could see them potentially contending until the deadline? Come deadline time, do you think they could say, yeah, you know what, we do need that left-handed bat?
You mean, are you talking about the roster right here, right now?
The roster as it stands right now. Do you think
Season
they can?
starts
Do you think
today.
they can afford to wait until the trade deadline in July? Or
I do not.
August?
I
You
do
don't
not.
think so?
I do not. I think it's pounce time. I think it's Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro need to develop what they're doing now. It's absolutely not going to happen because we are, again, back to Judge. Yankees just got Judge
Sure.
back. Sure, the Red Sox are declining, but they were declining last year anyways. Orioles are only getting better. Who knows what the Rays are going to be? No one ever knows that. So, from a
Right.
division perspective and an AL perspective,
I
no
wouldn't
way.
count out the Orioles, man. I wouldn't count them out.
Oh, I'm not counting them out.
They got some fight, man. They got some bite to them.
Let me tell you, as a Jays fan, I am 100% urgent. Is probably the correct word. It's now or never.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily time to
Still
hit the
have
panic
the
button,
future,
but
but
no,
you don't want to waste this year.
I don't mean right. I don't mean as a franchise. I'm urgent. I mean
You don't wanna
in terms of this
overthink.
year. It's time. it's time to make a move, or else.
In terms of the organization as it stands as a whole right now,
Because I don't
got to be now.
Because to answer your question, I don't see us as a playoff team with the roster we have right now. We don't have a 4 or 5 starter. That's Yusei Kikuchi or Mitch White. Get them off the field completely if we can. That's why we need 2 starters. And then on top of that, we cannot go into the season not replacing Teoscar Hernandez's value, but more importantly, not having an active left-handed bat on the starting lineup. That's impossible. Yeah, it's just not. It's not going to happen. There's no way they let it happen.
Do you think you guys missed out on Josh Bell?
Yeah, Josh Bell is someone who I looked into, but the Jays, as Keaton was talking about off recording, they use that DH spot as a huge day off.
Yeah,
I don't agree with that perspective personally. I get why it's a thing, but I would have thought if you want a DH and you can go give Josh Bell, it'd be a perfect option.
Honestly, going into the winter meetings, I really thought that the DH market, because of the switch over from the NL being DH accessible, was going to inflate tenfold.
Oh yeah.
I really thought that all these
it only went up like a few million.
I really thought that all these NL teams were going to jump on a DH, get a guy that is strictly good at the dish.
It's almost made them almost more cautious.
Exactly, yeah, and it doesn't make much sense. I get it. You need your middle infielders. All the shortstop market has shot up by like 20% comparatively to what it was. Before. Granted, we don't really see a lot of middle infielders getting these big contracts since last season. Last season you had Baez, Seager, all these other big name guys. Correa was one of them. You're kind of seeing that carryover to this year.
Yeah.
What I'm eager to see is how these long deals affect other teams' decision making come next offseason.
Yeah, it's always
there's such long term.
It's super long term.
It's crazy,
deals.
yeah.
You're signing these guys 10, 11, 12 years. It's like...
And you have to think down those lines,
You also have to pay these guys, too. It's not like you can cut them in the NFL where it's like, oh, well, you got $40 million guaranteed and then the rest is
right.
Yeah.
Right. To close out, all great topics, all great perspectives, but to close out our Blue Jays segment, this is, again... I full on have trust in my front office. They've done it every year. I can't ask for anything more other than signing 4 $100 million plus contracts in the past 3 off seasons. Sure. But here's the thing: we did miss out at the winter meetings. I do believe. I do think a lot of groundwork was made with trades and maybe certain other guys that people don't know about.
Sure.
Which I'm hoping, and I do 100% think is the case, but. It's time. It's now or never for the Blue Jays in terms of this year to make a move.
So to close out for the Blue Jays segment, give me your one free agent that you want on that squad right now that's still available.
I was gonna say would have been Brennan Nimmo. I'm gonna have to pivot. It would have been a left-handed bat, but it's gonna be Rodon. It has to be Rodon.
Okay.
It has to be now.
For you guys, I would go Conforto.
I liked it.
Gallo.
I do think
I do think that they need a starter, though. I do think that
we need
to add.
I think they can trade a catcher.
I don't think
for
it
them,
does.
though.
I don't think it needs to be premier starter.
But you can trade for that. They have a whole offseason to trade for that.
Thank God you mentioned that because that was going to be my.
What about the guy from Arizona, Zach Allen?
He's too expensive.
Yeah.
You think it would be more than Moreno and a couple other prospects?
Maybe.
He's got, I think, 2 years left.
Gallon is elite.
You can make a move for it, but he is expensive. We did actually talk to him.
I hate to bash the Diamondbacks like that, man, because it just seems like they can never get it figured out ever since they're early.
He would be expensive.
Ever since Luis Gonzalez's bloop single, it's kind of been all downhill from there, man.
Well, in our regards, though, we've got to figure out, and you mentioned this earlier, again, the dominoes fall. We do have that luxury of catchers to trade.
Yeah.
So we got to figure out, is that going to be for left-handed bat? Is that going to be for a starter? And again, to your point, I don't think the starter has to be premier. I just think
rotation guy.
I don't
go trade for an SP3.
And it shouldn't have been. It shouldn't be premier. But if we want to go in another route where we need to be creative, again, like I mentioned, I'm 100% open for being a premier.
Well, you're going to have to pay premier price right now.
Oh, for sure.
If you're looking at Rodon, you seriously have to consider paying.
But here's the thing:
price.
there's nothing that. And we touched on this on the last episode. We have the 4th biggest market in baseball. There's nothing that's keeping us back from signing another $100+ million contract. So we have the money for it. And am I willing to do it? It's not my first option. I'm willing to be creative though at this point.
Sure.
With how many people are off the board.
Toronto's got to get their fans to stop throwing stuff in the field. I'll just say that.
Kevin still hasn't forgotten about that. I believe we would be moving on to the Twins at this point, right?
Yeah, sure.
Let's hear it.
Well, I've talked about it enough. Correa needs to be a Twin. I'm going to scoot past that real quick.
It looks good.
It looks good, I think.
He looks good in that uniform.
Well, I think it looks good for us right now between us and the Giants.
I was talking about the uniform. He looks good in that.
I was going
Yeah,
to touch
sure.
on. I was going to touch on the Giants a little bit.
But hold on. No. The Giants will outbid us. We just need to make sure the details in the deal benefit him more.
Absolutely.
To make him pick us because he liked his time. Boris is gonna get what he wants. It's whatever.
Sure.
I have a quote from Boris earlier, but I did want to touch on Christian Vasquez.
Okay.
Because we offered him a 3-year deal.
Do you need him?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Jeffers is our only catcher,
Okay.
and he was hurt the whole season.
We'll give you Young Gomes.
Yeah. No. Christian Vasquez though. Listen to this.
No.
Christian Vasquez has thrown out the most base runners since 2020.
Oh, I love the guy, man. I love the guy.
The
pretty insane.
Twins were in the bottom third of the MLB in throwing out base stealers. That was killing us. We had Gary Sanchez back there.
Oh, the Sanchez.
And Jeffers, though, when he plays, he's one of the best defensive catchers in the game. His catcher ERA is very low.
So Gary's not under contract anymore.
No, he's gone now. We just got him for 1 year. But that's another thing. Last year, no one expected us to get Gio Urshela and even Isaiah Kiner Falefa. We had him for 48 hours or something like that.
Yeah.
That we traded our starting catcher for our starting shortstop.
I love it.
I think this year we're gonna do something crazy.
So
Forget Correa. I think we're gonna trade Kepler. We might trade Polanco or Arise.
Were they in on the
love to have
Contreras?
Polanco or Kepler. Thank
Yeah.
you for a
Or
left-handed
if you
bat.
got Arise.
I wouldn't.
I mean,
left-handed
I wouldn't
bat.
be opposed to.
I just think he
seeing-
costs a little bit too much.
I wouldn't be opposed to seeing Kepler in some good old Toronto Saturday.
I've been
Reds.
saying it for years.
He has been saying it. We actually talked about it as
Kepler in
speculation.
Toronto, I
He
think
fits.
he would be a great fit.
Same thing with
But-
Polanco.
In terms of what the Twins are right now, I would love to see a guy like Christian Vasquez go to them. Were you guys in on Contreras?
No, we weren't.
I think
That's a little bit too
I think
easy.
he
We're
was,
in
I
on-
think he was the best catcher on the market.
They got to pick. Yeah, but
we
they
agree
got,
he's too expensive for us.
I would say
13 mil.
It's 18 mil. He's getting paid
Yeah.
18.
I would say this.
I thought it was 13.
This is what you got to look
18
at
a
though.
year.
This is what you got to look at though. Money's got to be allocated for a team like the Twins. If they really want Correa, they can't be going to spend
Our
on
whole
contracts.
career,
Sure.
yeah, our whole
Fair.
life,
Fair.
they've always had a platoon catcher. It was Suzuki and Castro, righty lefty.
Well, that was after
they-
Mauer, correct?
After Mauer, they've platooned every time.
Yeah.
And they almost split 50-50. Like they'll play him one day, then the next day they'll play the next catcher.
Sure. Yeah.
So we need a catcher. We have none.
You need a
coming
mainstay guy. What?
out. And Jeffers
Could you
seems to
do?
get
Could
hurt.
you do business with Toronto?
Yes. I think we are calling them all the time.
So actually,
Jansen fits our team.
there is actually news on that. The Twins actually are kind of been emerged as rumored suitors
No,
for
you guys are the
the
best.
Blue Jays. I know it. We are.
Jansen-
No. I mean but on our end, you guys are rumored to trade for. There is one guy in the market who is outlying our catchers. If it's not Moreno or Kirk, which it's not supposed to be, it's going to
Narvaez
be.
would be good for you guys.
No.
Left-handed bat.
No, we're not going to trade for a catcher, or we're not going to sign a catcher. No, I'm talking about in terms of the marketplace for catching. The only two guys that were in front of us were Wilson Contreras.
Sorry, my bad. Narvaez would be good for us.
Yeah. Wilson Contreras and Sean Murphy are the only two guys that are ahead of the pack for us.
We were linked to
and that's
Murphy,
the domino
but
fall.
we're not going to give.
He apparently, I read something that he wanted from the Cardinals. This is what they wanted. They wanted Lars Nootbaar, who we wanted, before they signed Contreras. They wanted Lars Nootbaar. They wanted Ryan, their closer, I think it's Housley, who's elite. And they also wanted like one of their top prospects, and the Cardinals said, no, we'll sign Wilson Contreras.
Nah, yeah.
Sean Murphy, I think, is highly regarded. I would say he's better than Danny Jansen, for sure. So, in your
Sean
aspect,
Murphy is the perfect world, which we can't. We have prospects, but we can't spend them on a catcher. We already have Jeffers.
right.
Like we just need someone to platoon for catcher. 3-year deal for Vasquez would be nice.
Yeah.
But aside from the catcher, we need a right-handed bat. So I'm pretty mad that we didn't get Haniger.
John Gomes, I'm telling you.
Other than that, I think the Twins are going to have a pretty normal offseason. They're going to try to get Correa, and then we'll have to wait till February till they make the rest of their moves.
I was going to say, obviously a breakdown is Correa's the number one focus, but you do need a catcher.
The Twins have been known to trade. We just traded for Sonny Gray. We traded for Tyler Mahle.
Yeah.
We have the prospects to do it. Yeah. So it's really just patience with us.
Do you want to get rid of all your prospects right now, though, or at least some of them?
I would be fine with it. We draft well.
For a guy like...
We'll be able to replenish it.
I don't even know. Like, where do you go for a catcher right now? Who do you call?
Toronto.
Toronto is the only really...
No, and Sean Murphy.
Other than that, we would
Sean
sign...
Murphy, but...
Other than that, we would sign Vasquez or Narvaez.
I like the Narvaez signing.
There's probably
there's no steam on him.
I've seen him really, really, really kill the...
He did have a really bad year, but yes.
But I've seen him kill the Cubs.
I think that's an outlier.
I would agree.
I think that's an outlier.
I will say this. How about, let me offer you a scenario. You're not going to like this, but what if, since Sean Murphy is extremely expensive, that's the rumor.
What's his asking price?
Well, I was just telling Keaton
a lot of
that his... Yeah, and
they want
Cardinals,
MLB ready. They want
the Cardinals.
MLB.
They wanted Lars Newbar, who's a huge prospect for them. They want Ryan Helsley as their closer.
Was Nolan Gorman included in that?
They wanted a top prospect.
Either way, Murphy demands like 2 or 3 major leaguers, like
and
people who have 6 years of control.
So you're talking about Royce Lewis and Austin Martin.
People like that.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Or Trevor Larnach, Kirilloff.
What about Balasevic?
I would trade him for that.
Or what about we throw out?
They want more.
What about we throw out a Luis Perez?
No.
But I mean,
I just don't understand what direction Oakland's going in. Nobody ever understands where Oakland's going.
Yeah, they'll probably keep Murphy at the end.
Oakland doesn't know with it. No, I think they're going to trade him. Cleveland's big on a catching market right now. They're huge. They're the rumored actually suitors for him.
I don't want them to steal Vasquez.
I was going to say, I think Cleveland would be a
I can just
great
picture
landing.
him with Francona.
Oh, absolutely.
Vasquez?
Absolutely. Vasquez in Cleveland. I mean, that makes a lot of... He looks like a Cleveland guy.
He does.
Well, you're just thinking of him in the red uniform.
Maybe it's because he's a little resemblant of Roberto Perez, but...
Yes.
Yeah, I think that...
And he's defense. They're all about the sabermetrics. And
absolutely. Yeah, with Lindor...
that's kind of it, though.
When they had Lindor and Kipnis
up
the middle there.
Absolutely.
That defense was...
They've always had good catchers, too.
Believe me, I remember 2016 when they went up with a 3-1 lead on the Cubs.
Absolutely.
Before I know, because you just were about to, not to cut you off, Kevin, but because you were just about to move on, before I move on to the Cubs, I would like to say your Boris quote that you did write down. Scott Boris is quoted saying Minnesota has like 7-8 prospects that on many teams would be their number one prospect. Austin Martin, Royce Lewis, Jeffers. They have Miranda, Kirilloff. They have this abundance of top 10, 15 draft talent. They just added Brooks Lee. So, me and Keaton...
Yeah, we just drafted Brooks Lee.
I love me some Jose Miranda, man.
And, we just traded Chase Petty straight up for Sonny Gray. What's to say we don't trade Brooks Lee for Brandon Woodruff? Or Pablo Lopez?
Or you go in a different direction, and it's what's to say you don't trade Sonny Gray for 3 additional prospects?
We could.
Here's the thing.
But... Because we have depth at the pitching.
You could go in a completely different direction. I think it's all going to depend on what Correa ends up doing.
Oh, well, yeah, that comes
first. Where it's all going to... It's all going to boil down to what Correa does.
Because if we don't get him... Yeah, because if we don't get him, then you have to worry about what you weren't worrying about before.
Yeah, sure.
So,
Here's the thing. The nice thing about the Twins is they can be creative. They don't... Not necessarily. I'm not going to say they don't know where they're at as a team because they do because the Central's wide open.
Sure.
And we always have waves of talent.
But they can also be creative and they can just say, why don't we take this year and if they end up, say they don't get Correa, why don't we just figure out what we're going for next year and figure it out. That division is
They're the 4th youngest team in baseball.
Then though, man.
Listen to this. The Twins are the 4th youngest team.
Yeah.
So everyone's cheap.
Even then though, I mean, you're talking about a team that could potentially... even without Correa, make an impact.
Yeah.
I really love...
We were in first place for 75%.
I love Jose Miranda. I love Royce Lewis. And Austin Martin's a solid piece as well. And then you factor in Kelnick as well.
Kirilloff.
Kirilloff. I'm sorry, Kirilloff.
Mm-hmm.
You factor in those guys,
Nick Gordon, your favorite?
And I love Nicky G.
He had a big season.
I love me some Nicky G, man.
Dude, he had a great year that no one knows about.
Them Gordon brothers, man, they can ball, man.
Yeah, Gordon's got power now.
They can ball, man.
Nick Gordon.
Yeah, I know.
It is interesting that he was able to develop that.
They made him gain like 25 pounds or something.
And he's a utility guy.
Yeah, he plays everywhere.
And that's what Twins love, man.
Oh, yeah.
Arias, Polanco, all those.
So your punch on the Twins, though, is we need
Correa. That's a given, but I think we should actually be looking out for the Vazquez deal any second.
I would love it.
Awesome.
They offered it to him, so
it makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, we need a catcher.
It really does. It really clicks.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's our touch on the Twins. We've done the Twins. We've done the Jays. We've got one more team left since we got Kevin on the podcast, and that would be the Chicago Cubs.
Here we go.
From the winter meetings perspective, what are we feeling like? Do we like the deals of Bellinger and Tyon? I know we kind of touched on them a little bit earlier, but
where's the direction going?
Northsiders, man. I gotta be honest with you. I'm not big on the length of the Tyon deal, as I had mentioned prior, but I understand it. Where we're at as a rotation right now really boils down to what is Hendricks going to be. Last year he was abysmal. The year before that he was bad. The year prior to that he was really good. So I really think that it's going to boil down to what the rotation perspective is going to be. I would love to see Hendricks perform and then potentially get something for him at the deadline. And honestly, I'm going to be talking about the deadline a lot because you got a guy like Bellinger who's on a 1-year deal, right? If he produces well prior to the deadline, let's say maybe he's vying.
Average.
Let's say maybe he's vying for
elite
even
defense,
if he's vying for an all-star bid, then you're talking about teams willing to pay prospects for a guy like Bellinger, and that's what the Cubs need right now. They got a guy that's coming up and through the system. His name is Brennan Davis. He's a really, really solid player. He's a really solid player. He's got good
top prospects, though, right?
Yeah. He's I'm going to be talking a lot of prospects. He's a guy who's coming up through the ranks. He's he's a big guy, 6'3", got a good frame on him. Really knows how to play the game the right way. True to his craft. Speedy cat. He knows what he's doing out there. PCA too. Pete Crow Armstrong. He's a guy who's really come through the ranks. He was from the Baez trade. Big fan of the guy. Love what he's done. The big question marks for the Cubs as it stands right now is what are you going to do with your corner infielders? You've got Alfonso Rivas as it stands right now at your first base position, and then I believe Wisdom's a free agent.
No,
he's
got you have him. You have him for a while.
Yes, so
very cheap.
My apologies. They got Wisdom and Bodie at the corner, and either one. I mean, you're talking about a guy that's going to get between the two of them. They're probably going to strike out 280, 300 times, honestly, within the first half of the year.
I think you'll hold on.
And then,
to guys like
Wisdom.
Wisdom.
I don't want to cut you off, but I'm realizing you're going in a different direction in terms of something I want to ask. What do you want out of the Cubs this year? What do you want them to look like team-wise? Do you want them
to keep bringing in these?
I want to keep taking chances on some of these guys because if they work out and you're all of a sudden contending in an NL Central division that you, much like the AL Central, you just don't know. You truthfully just don't know. And I'm gracious to this day that Houston's out of our division because that would be
that'd be awful nowadays.
That'd be a nightmare. But you got Pittsburgh that you don't know what they're going to be. Cincinnati, they haven't done anything, so I think they're going to be bottom of the barrel. And then you've got Milwaukee and St. Louis, who are always contenders, who always play the Cubs hard. It's true. What it boils down to is you can look at some of the guys that you can. Who else can you get on a 1-year deal right now for some money?
Or even a 2 or 3.
You've got Dom Smith out there sitting on the market. Nobody wants him because of whatever reason. The Cubs are a perfect fit for him. Lefty bat, power bat.
You need a better
power alleys at Wrigley Field.
Oh yeah.
You got to think about Dom Smith. Picture it, Dom Smith, June, hot day at Wrigley Field. He could easily hit 3 home runs, or he could easily strike out 3 times. It doesn't matter. You're going to take a chance on the guy. I think you go after a guy like that. You go after a guy like Michael Conforto, who's been a forgotten about name.
Here's a really good name for the Cubs: corner outfielder, could completely return back to whatever he was, and then you could trade him. Will Myers.
I could easily see that. And,
I mean, I don't actually.
Will Myers is also a guy that can play first base.
Kind of
too.
like AJ
And
Pollock.
I don't know if he'll ever return to what he was.
I don't think
He was a
Will
red
Myers
star,
will return to what he was, but he could maximize your return on investment for him.
Yeah.
I will say that. I do
And a
think
competing team, maybe their DH goes down at the deadline and they're panicking. Let's call up the Cubs and give them a minor leaguer.
I hate to sound like every Chicago fan ever, but you don't know with this team right now. You want to believe that there's going to be a chance for a potential playoff bid. It's just not going to happen this year, I don't think. You got to be realistic about it, man.
So you're saying put the chips in for guys that could potentially give us more.
Put the chips in on 1-year deals, 2-year deals.
Yeah,
Here
I
and
would.
there.
You did it last year.
Throw it in on those guys.
My take to what it matters is I think what we're looking for the Cubs, and I will give my full perspective right here. I don't think we're a playoff team for another couple of years, which is completely fine because we're a rebuild.
I agree with you.
But I will say this. I will say that I do like a lot of the young guys they have. I like their prospect pool. I like Davis. I like PCA.
Mm-hmm.
I like Velasquez.
Yeah.
I
Morel,
like
too.
Morel's
Morel's a dog. He's a
I
dog.
do like, and I obviously we don't know what Nick Madrigal is going to be like. I like his. And then Horner is elite.
I want to see what those two can do up the middle, for at least the first half of the year. I want to see what Nicky M and Nico Horner can do up the middle. I think those two guys together up the middle can be something special, and that's why I was going to bring my next point. Do not go all in on one of those middle infielders right now. Stay away from C4. Stay away from Dansby Swanson. Don't buy into it. It's all nonsense now.
I agree.
You don't need it. You got a guy like Nico Horner who...
He's becoming a fan favorite.
As the stats stand, he's right up there with some of the other guys.
He's awesome.
Some of the other guys in the league. He's
probably
a top 10 shortstop. I would say he's probably
he's
top 10
100% a
shortstop.
top 10 shortstop. Yeah.
Probably in the 8 to 10 region, but still, regardless, he's
Top 10's
produced and he's done what has been asked, and I think that's what Cubs players need to do right now.
Yeah.
Just do what you're asked. You don't need to go above and beyond. You don't need to be the next Javi Baez. You don't need to be the next Anthony Rizzo.
You need to develop.
You need to bat at least, 260. And I really hope that some of the experimental guys that they've brought up through the ranks, such as Zach McKinstry, they got him in a trade last year. If he can turn into something as a utility guy, bring in a little aspect of, hey, maybe you come in every Sunday and you bat 240 a year. Fine by me. Turn into a Tommy La Stella for us. And then, we'll move you at the deadline wherever you want to go.
Wherever
you want to go.
You gotta turn these guys into valuable pieces as time goes on.
Absolutely.
Because some are gonna take off and you're gonna be like, wow, like this guy's clearly a part of our future.
Sure.
This guy you can be like, oh well, he's good. Another team might want him.
Sure.
So let's sit on him for another year and then see on his return.
So if I could have a word,
it's all going to come together in like 2 or 3 years for sure.
Right. So
Absolutely.
that's what takes the time.
Patience.
Not everybody develops at the same pace. Everybody's got to make their mark at their own time.
It's like Heaney,
and
it's
top prospect, and now he's finally
into that regard, I really do in terms of the rebuild. I think Jed Hoyer is a super smart executive. I think he knows what he's doing. I think
simplicity. Simplicity is the key to brilliance.
You gotta again, and I know it sucks being, on the side of a rebuild, but at the same time, again, we talked about this off audio. We were in our text group chat. I think me and Keaton think it's time to let Hap go. It's time for obviously a good choice. It's time to let Hendricks go. For the reason, and I don't know if you're going to trade him or release him, however you can get him done. I think it's time.
I would release Hendricks.
And I think it's very sentimental, obviously.
Sure,
but it's time it's really time to make that next great Cubs team that's going to go back to 2016.
That was the problem in years prior, right? It's
right.
Because you've seen a lot of Cubs teams come throughout the years where it's been like, 08, like, oh man, we made the playoffs, we won the division, we're going to be contending again, and then get swept and boat raced by the Dodgers at home, and it's a gut punch, and then you go out and buy the next year for no reason, and then you're stuck, from 2010 from 2010 till 2014.
You realize you've been
they were
putting out
screwed.
all these guys we've bought. Instead, we could have been giving all these reps and innings to young guys that could have given us an idea of the future.
I'll be honest, Cubs baseball is not going to be entertaining from, obviously I think all Cubs fans are going to watch opening day this year. It's a ritual. Every single fan of your team, you watch opening day. And it might be the Cubs and Pirates. I don't remember the schedule, but
it'll
you're going to be watching. You're going to be watching at 12:05 Central Time,
right.
And you're going to sit there and you're going to go, "Man, we're going to suck."
Yeah.
And then you're going to sit there and you're going to watch whenever it's on, if you have time, and you're going to sit there.
But you got to do your best to find.
You're going to watch.
positives.
You're going to watch. You're going to watch. And then you're going to hear the trade rumblings in July, and then come August, that's when you're going to want to watch Cubs baseball because you're going to want to see what you've got.
Yeah, I agree. Or September as well with the call-ups. But here's my take. I think...
Well, it's not 40 guys anymore coming up to the big
But
leagues
still,
in
you'll get some
September,
chances.
Well, I think no matter how you look at it, I think it's nothing but positives for the Cubs in terms of... I like the deals they did. I like
As
the
of now.
Bellinger.
As of now.
Well, I think it's nothing but positives if they stay on the rebuild route. There's no reason
I
for them
agree
to
with
veer
you.
off. And I know... And again, as a fan, as the Cubs fans... I know they're very passionate, but you got to understand again. This is
passionate and dumb.
right.
Yeah,
I mean, this is a team that's got a history of losing. Obviously, they broke it in 2016. But with that said, it's I think the traditional route exactly like they did in 2016 when they finally said we're done with this. They built a team.
It took them a little bit, but they built it.
Well, what was the end result of that? You know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying. So, it's
greatness.
What is it? It's rebuild. It's rebuild, develop, contend, win, repeat.
Yeah, or
so at the end of the
don't
day,
win, and
but win in terms of be at least the playoffs.
Yeah.
Right,
but you have to develop well in the meantime.
Oh,
at all three levels, you need to.
And
make
that's
sure
where we're at right now as a team, as a ball club. We're trying to figure out where everybody goes. Right.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it doesn't look like Miguel Amaya is going to turn out to be the guy.
He can't stay healthy.
To be the guy that we thought he was going to be. He can't stay healthy in minor league ball clubs. He can't stay healthy over the offseason. It stinks, but
I liked Amaya.
I did too. But you can't throw all your chips in on a prospect. So I think what the end all be all discussion that we need to have come the offseason is. Or come the trade deadline, I should say, is who's going to be worth money? Who are we going to be looking to who's going to be worth prospects, I should say.
Yeah.
We have to evaluate that.
Which you'll have some
need to separate.
You'll have a good pick of the litter for sure.
Yeah. Sure, but you need to separate your emotional attachment to some of these guys.
Yeah,
it's going to stink. It just like the Contreras deal. It's going to suck, but you're going to have to get through it.
But Kevin, you also got to look at it. As a Cubs fan, is you guys have the advantage to the reason of you're not trying to win. You're okay with sucking.
Sure.
If some of these guys don't turn out, they don't turn out. And at that rate, you have the market of, if a Cody Bellinger turns out or if Tyone turns out, you have the market
to
try again.
If the lottery screws us again, then we might be different. But
But
dude, that helped the Twins.
Oh, I know.
Yeah,
we went from 13 to 5.
I know.
But with simple
another Brooks Lee coming up.
But with simple aspects and from a full Cubs perspective, again, I just don't think it's anything but positive. I think again, you have to realize that the rebuild it was time to start it. It started, and now it's again you have the advantage.
It's time to start getting excited.
My advice would be: do not spend on any premier free agent until next year. I talked about it with you guys. There's a guy by the name of Rafael Devers.
You love Devers.
I am so big on Devers.
Yeah, Kevin loves.
You
Devers.
can give him whatever he wants. Give him a blank check.
And if it doesn't work out at third and he just sucks at third,
give him a first base opportunity.
Play him at first, yeah.
That's the guy. That's your left-handed bat. It's going to go to the power alleys. It's going to hit the ball off the freaking scoreboard in right field.
3-hitter every game.
And he's your mainstay. That's your guy that you get on a 7
to
10 year deal.
That's who you build around.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because realistically, again,
you'll have Hoyner and then a few other pieces that solidify.
And if I'm not mistaken, Juan Soto, did he sign an extension?
No.
Yeah.
No,
he did.
No, he didn't.
He has a huge deal.
No, he's only there for like 2 more years.
With an opt-out.
Two or three more
With an
years.
opt-out, if I'm not mistaken.
He just got traded. He just got traded. But
that's your guy as well. If for any,
I think
all
30
teams would
Right.
be in Juan Soto.
Right. He did have a little bit of an off year, but it's Juan Soto at the end of the day.
You're talking about the youngest World Series winner ever. The guy that couldn't even party in the locker room with his other teammates.
Right.
That guy.
right, yeah.
Who couldn't even have a bottle of champagne because he was too young
Right.
to win
That's
when he won a
insane
World
when you
Series.
Think about it.
That guy. Yeah.
Yeah,
You're going to
but-
want him on any ball club in the entire league.
But again, Kevin, as well as Cubs fans, I think just needs to stay positive, just for the reason that again, you're willing to you're used to winning nature again, but winning nature as a reason. So you just they just need to sit still and realize that only positive sunshine is ahead in terms. Should I say? I think you can. I don't think you can get. You're in a rebuild. You can't get any worse.
There's no more.
In a good way.
There's no more Black Cats and Steve Bartman running.
And it really does
around
sound
here.
like when I say you can't get any worse, it sounds like I'm bashing the team, but I'm completely 100% not.
I'm
100% saying they're doing the right
like I
thing.
mentioned, man, I would really be in favor of going to get 1 year, 2 year guys. Hey, you
Even
want to
Stroman
Take
type
a walk.
deals.
you want to come play in Chicago for a year, enjoy the summer out here, and play on the north side.
And you guys have the
and have the
advantage.
have the
Stadium.
fans just love you
And
for
you have
who
the,
you
I was gonna say,
are.
you have the advantage of the storied franchise, and the Cubs, organization is kind of a different atmosphere in terms of you got Wrigley Field,
But-
how historic you got. You guys as fans are super loyal,
Yeah,
and it's to a regard of
that's always how it's been. I mean, even a guy like Anthony Rizzo, when he first came over from San Diego in a trade, he was like rendered as being the guy already when he walked in the door.
they did.
And the guy batted like he had a couple years where he only batted 230, and Chicago fans still beloved the guy. I mean, because of who he was as a guy and how he carried himself too. And I don't know, David Ross and what his schemes are.
His time's up.
I
pretty
don't-
soon.
Controversial
He's not
controversial
the
as
guy.
all hell, to be honest with you, but he's not the guy.
He makes some questionable choices.
David Ross is a glorified pitching coach. Let's be
Sure.
honest. He
And I
knows how to handle a pitcher. He'll walk out to the mound. He'll talk to you. He'll say, "Hey, how you doing? How you feeling?"
And I do think anybody who's arguing with you on that isn't necessarily being realistic. Because
No,
I mean,
it's emotional attachment again.
yeah, well,
That's
it's
how
an
Cubs
emotional
fans, that's how
attachment.
Cubs
for-
fans operate.
But it's an emotional attachment for him not even being a manager. It's an emotional attachment for him being on a World Series team, which I understand. I get it. But at the same time, again, he's a rebuilding manager. It is what it is. They're a rebuilding team. It is what it is. It's going to take 3-4 years, maybe even take a fifth. I don't think it's going
Which
to.
is fine.
But you have to understand, at the end of the day, it's all,
They
positive.
need to bring in Dexter Fowler as a bench coach. That guy was he was the lifeblood of that team, man.
Yeah.
Alrighty, well, it looks, Emma, do you have anything else you want to touch on the Cubs?
Oh man, it's gonna be a long year. It's gonna
For
be a long
sure.
year. Yeah.
So actually, I will, before we go
Just
off, actually.
just keep your eye on the positives.
Yeah.
Yeah, and before we go off, actually, we did have one more thing to talk about regarding the Cubs. It kind of feeds into the Wilson Contreras thing. I know you wanted to talk about this. Loyalty in terms of Cubs players.
yes.
And, them switching over to the Cardinals.
Yeah, so
I know that stung a little bit.
we talked about this earlier before the podcast aired, man. There a lot of people say, well, Wilson Contreras isn't loyal to the Cubs, and to be fair, there's been quite a lot of deals that have been made between ex-Cards, 2 Cubs, and ex-Cubs, 2 Cards. First name that came to my mind was Bruce Sutter, dominant closer for the Cubs, Hall of Famer, and then switched over to the dark side, as I call it. Went over to the Cards, and then the flip side of it, we don't win that World Series without Jason Hayward. As much as I might talk bad about the guy, he's a great guy. He's a great player. Yeah, at the time, he was a great player. So him coming over from the Cardinals to the Cubs, and then Dexter Fowler kind of doing the reverse of that, going to the Cardinals from the Cubs, and there's been several guys that have done it, man. So I wish nothing but the best for Wilson and his future endeavors.
But nothing but the worst for
But
the
nothing
Cardinals.
but the
Right,
exactly. I hope they win 2 games this year and they're against the Brewers.
There you
So,
go. Well, I just
yeah.
wanted you to get that out because I know you really want to talk about
Yeah,
that
I
real
mean,
quick.
How much that hurts.
Right.
It does hurt a lot. It does hurt a lot to see him cross the Mississippi and go into the evil Missouri.
And I'm sure Cubs fans across Chicago are screaming.
Weeping.
Screaming is probably a word for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no,
It's gonna
had to happen.
be a tough year, but Wilson Contreras should have been traded at the deadline last year. Let's be honest.
or even before the
You
season.
gotta
His value
gotta
was
close the book on that.
his
one.
value was at an all-time high. In the offseason last year, they didn't move him. They thought they could get a deal done. Didn't. The deadline came around. All the rumors came around. Would you want to play for a team if you were being talked about in a trade every single week?
And I know,
since
and
the season
and we
started.
we did talk about this. I do wonder if there is a little bit of a background story that maybe fans don't know, where they maybe were thinking about extending him and building around him, but at the same time,
not at his
whatever.
age.
I was gonna say whatever.
Yeah,
It didn't work out.
he
Whatever.
could have been your franchise guy, but
He's
it's been known to be
too old.
It's been known to
How
be
old
a
is he?
problem.
He's 30,
He's 30.
but like
Exactly.
by the time you start winning,
That's true.
He'll be 35.
he's 33,
He'll be a
34,
DH.
35.
Yeah.
Maybe a first baseman
Knees
or
will
a
be
left
down.
fielder.
Agreed. Yeah.
But you're
I
talking
thought
about a
he was a
guy
little bit
that's
younger, actually.
you're talking about a guy that's he's gonna go to St. Louis and
He's gonna have a club of stars around him. So.
but also St. Louis pitcher ballpark. So we'll see how he does out there.
We'll see though.
I wish nothing but the best for the guy. I love the guy, but
Yeah. Other than that, this is a good special
Yeah,
guest
thank
feature
you.
episode.
thank you guys for having me.
Yeah,
man.
way longer than usual. I think we're at an hour and a half
Yeah.
of the podcast. I
all
hope you
good.
guys, for those of you that are still there, and I hope you guys are enjoying.
Right on.
Thank you very much, Kevin, for coming on.
Thank you guys for having me.
Of
man.
course, we do plan to bring Kevin back on. When we do
Some
we're
Cubs
gonna-
news.
Yeah,
pops
Cubs
up again.
news, just anything. I know we like bringing on different people for different analysis. Kevin, you're a great guy to bring on.
Cubs news, Rangers news, whatever,
got
man.
And it's
I'll
fun to
be
just to help helping us grow our podcast.
I love
have
it,
a
man.
buddy on. It's just cool. So
I love it, man.
Yeah.
I
Thank you
love
for
it.
being a part of. Yeah, thank you for.
Thanks a
being
lot,
part of it,
guys.
For sure.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, guys. Cheers, man.
with that, we'll wrap it up and we'll see you on the next episode.
Alrighty, guys.
See you.